that.
Paul, I would like to say just at the beginning that I'm very happy that you invited me here. For many, many years, it was my dream to be on this stage, and suddenly it's happened.
You finally get to talk about Menachem Begin. For those of you who, if some of you aren't getting the joke, it's because Herzl Makov was until recently the president of the Menachem Begin Heritage Center, the founding president of the Menachem Begin Heritage Center, who and absolutely deserves that round of applause for the center that he created. And we're going to talk a little bit about the center as well, but. Let me just introduce Herzl first. He wasn't just, not that it's a just, but he wasn't just the founding CEO of the Begin Center. He was previously chief of staff to Prime Minister Yitzhak Shamir, also director of the emissary department of the Jewish Agency, and a major in the IDF, serving in the Air Force as an aircrew staff member. And he was involved in Operation Opera, the famous attack on the Osirak nuclear reactor, ordered by none other than Prime Minister Menachem Begin. So, Herzl Makov, everyone. I want to also just, some people will be watching this on recording on YouTube, some of you on our new English language podcast. So if it's on the podcast, please rate and review us on whatever platform you're looking at it on. And wherever you're viewing it, share it with friends on social media. Herzl, we have a really nice crowd here tonight. I don't know if this is our biggest crowd, perhaps. And I think maybe, or I'm going to claim certainly, that reflects Begin's popularity. This proves that Menachem Begin is the most popular prime minister in his of history.
It's not just your feeling. In surveys that they do in Israel from time to time, sometimes the newspaper don't have a real issue to discuss, so they go and ask who was the best prime minister, who was the most important prime minister, who is the prime minister that you would like to see back. I don't know if there is technology to do it, but they ask the question, and always David Ben-Gurion and Menachem Begin are coming first, like 40%, and the rest of the 20% go to all the other 9 prime ministers. Very, very big difference. And when you run such a survey in the world, always the people remember who was the first prime minister or the first president. I guess there are a few people from the United States here. Everybody knows in the United States, the first president was George Washington. But who was the 6th president? Unless you are, specialized in the history of the president, of the presidential history, nobody knows. I checked, by the way, it's John Quincy Adams. But nobody remembers. So how come they remember Begin, that again was the 6th prime minister, and he left office in 83. So to the young generation here, it's not history, it's archaeology.
And he also wasn't prime minister for such a long time.
And he was just 6 years a prime minister. And when I thought about it, I thought to myself, who is the other president that most Americans remember? Lincoln. And I would like to claim that Begin, like Lincoln, reshaped Israel society, reshaped Israel as a state, thank God, without civil war. But he, by the way, was a great admirer of Lincoln. Once he even embarrassed President Carter.
No bad thing.
Yeah, well, it cost us along the way.
Okay.
They were in Camp David, and the American expert decided that they need a retreat. So they went to Gettysburg, which is near Camp David. And Carter said, well, you know, President Lincoln gave here one of his most important speeches, the Gettysburg speech, and he said something about for the people, by the people. Menachem Begin looked at him and said, Mr. President, and he gave the whole speech by heart. So that's one of the moments when Carter developed his attitude towards Begin.
So Ben Gurion was Israel's George Washington, and Begin was Israel's Lincoln in your view. I said I wanted to ask something about the center, and it's this: the center was established by an act of Knesset to commemorate Menachem Begin, but also to teach his legacy, his moreshet, his heritage. What would you say? How would you describe what Begin's heritage is? What's the contribution that Begin's heritage can make to Israeli society today? What can Israelis today, Israeli society, whatever, what can it learn from Menachem Begin?
You know, if you would ask me to do it give a very short answer and to use one word, I would say ahava. In 2 words, ahavat Israel. Because the man was committed to his people. He didn't have a career. He served the people.
Yeah.
That was his self-concept.
Yeah.
But regarding what we can learn from it, that was really the main questions that we ask ourselves. Begin, as a follower of Zev Jabotinsky, believed in what we called the liberal national concept theory, which based on a balance between those 2 poles, between those 2 pillars. And I believe that what we lost here in Israel, in the state of Israel, in the last few decades, is this balance.
Right.
There are those who became extreme liberals and forgot about the Jewish
national identity, Jewish Zionism, in fact.
Zionism or Jewish pride.
Yeah.
And there are those who forgot about the liberalism and became very radical nationalists. And I believe that the answer to many questions and many challenges that we still have is lie on this balance between those 2 pillars.
Right.
And that's what we learned from him, I think.
Yeah.
Because Jabotinsky created the theory, but Begin was implemented.
Yeah.
As the prime minister, on one hand, he made sure that the human rights will be respected by the Shabak, by the police, by the judicial system. And on the other hand, he believed that Judea and Samaria is part of the land of Israel, and he initiated all the great operation of the Hityashvut, of the settlement, was after 77, after he became prime minister. I mean, before that, we had a few in the Jordan Valley, but the labor at that time, now it's completely different, but at that time, they didn't think that we should be in Judea and Samaria, in the heart of the land of Israel.
Right, they had specific areas, but
Bikat HaYarden, the Jordan Valley.
Right, talking to the Alon plan.
Yeah, the Alon plan. So he had the ability to balance and to be radical on both sides of the equation.
Yeah, no, it's really interesting because I think I have this a lot when I speak to groups visiting from the United States and UK and elsewhere, that they have a view of what left means and what right means. And it's quite interesting that in the Israeli context, if you go back, it confuses them because, for example, if you said to them that you had a government that put a military curfew on Arab citizens and an opposition leader who spoke out against it, you would assume that it was the right-wing government that put the curfew and the left-wing opposition, but it was the other way around. It was Ben Gurion that put the curfew and Begin, his opposition leader, who spoke against it.
Yeah,
right?
he said there is no, we cannot justify putting a curfew only according to the origin of the people.
Right, right. Yeah, it's one of the things I think that makes him so such an interesting person to learn about because he challenges people's conceptions, preconceptions.
He, by the way, never accepted the division between left and right. He said it's, something that had to do with the sitting in the French National Assembly. And what does it have to do with us? Because he believed in social justice.
Right.
Not a socialism.
Right.
But social justice according to the tradition of the Jewish people.
Yeah.
Again, learned from Jabotinsky that spoke about the core of the concept of social justice, which is coming from the Bible, from our tradition. The Shabbat is very social justice issue, and then we have social distribution. Pe'ah, Shechecha, Veleket, 3 mitzvot. I don't know how to say it in English.
Someone's going to have to help me out here. Can someone more learned than me in such things volunteer? Say again. Corn, right, yeah. Right. So leaving corners of the field for the poor. Yes, is left for the poor to take. Yes, right.
And the idea of Yovel, Jubilee.
Right, the Jubilee year. Right.
That every slave, Hebrew slave, is going back free.
Is free. Yeah.
So he said we have in our tradition such a great values of social justice. Why we have to go to the Goyim and learn about socialism, which it's really against the nature of human being.
Right. Yeah, and then of course, and we'll talk. We'll go into this when we go into his time as prime minister. But obviously, one of the big changes as prime minister was him undoing so much of the socialist state that had been built up. So we'll get there. But I want to go further back and ask a little bit about Begin as commander of the Irgun, of the Herzl, because he famously said, when asked, that his most important role in his life was not as prime minister, but was as commander of the Irgun. Can you say what was behind that? What was behind that statement?
I think I heard it from him personally as a young person. Okay. He was introduced in the memorial for Jabotinsky as the prime minister of Israel and the former commander of the Irgun. And he came to the mic and he said to the guy who introduced him, no, it's the other way. First, I'm the commander of the Irgun, then I became prime minister. It has to do, I think, with 2 levels. On the personal base, the feeling that you were part of the liberation efforts, the struggle to get freedom and sovereignty to the Jewish people, it's probably the most rewarding feeling that a man can have on the personal base. And on the national base, I would say that he felt that, again, to gain the Jewish state was the most important goal of the Jewish people in the 20th century. Yeah. Maybe in many centuries, but it was achieved in the 20th century, maybe the most important change of the situation of the Jewish people. Then to do the maintenance
Right.
It's important, but it's not as to establish.
The achievement was the establishment, yeah. And of course, he spent such a long time in opposition. How do you think how does someone deal with that, with suffering so many defeats? Like it seems unimaginable. I'm not sure, I don't know enough about the world's democracies, but I can't imagine there are many other cases of an opposition leader losing election after election and not being kicked out by their party, for one thing.
Yeah, you don't have to go to the world. You can see it in Israel, in the opposition.
Right.
The number of leaders of the opposition has been changed, especially in the Labour Party. It became,
For sure.
one of the strong mitzvot to kick out the leader after one defeat.
Yeah.
He spoke once about perseverance, and he said that for him it's come from the education that he got as a young boy. I believe a strong element was the time that he spent in the Russian jail, in the labor camp there, because I think that if you survive that,
Yeah.
And he attributed mostly to his wife, Aliza, that she was the cornerstone for his service. He didn't use the term career or his service. And again, he believed, in general, in politics of idea, of values. And the role of the politician, of a leader, is in what he called to conquer the heart of the people. And that doesn't matter whether you are in minority, in the opposition, or in the government. That your role until you will win. So he had the strength, and we have to understand also that he was a good politician.
Right.
Because you can't run a party in the opposition. I mean, there is no budget to give, there is no position to give to the people around you.
Right.
So you have to either have a lot of charisma, and he had, but also to realize how to handle the party. There is a story about one of the techniques that he used. Heruti, the party that he established in 48, 49, was one of the most democratic party. And they had the conference. In the conference, they elected the central committee, and they ran the party. So there was a committee that was supposed to create the list of the central committee. And the practice was that after they decided about the committee, they showed it to Menachem Begin. And he was looking at the list. Very nice, very good person. But what about, and he added to the list of a few people to make sure that he will have majority in the committee. He never dismissed anybody.
Right.
He just added a few. How can we leave out, Esther Azielna, or she was the sister of the commander of the Irgun, and so forth.
Right. He knew how to play the game. He knew how to play the political game. Yeah. And I mean, I assume there are people here that know a lot about Menachem Begin, and maybe some who know less. And I know people will be watching or listening who know a little less. So forgive me if I'm saying things that people already know. But he, throughout the course of his time, Herut also merged with other parties to eventually form first Gahlan and the Likud. And so he also knew how to maneuver within the Israeli system to create eventually a bigger bloc that would attract more votes.
He realized that with the the small party,
Right.
you won't be able to get to the power.
Yeah.
So you have to create a bloc. And actually, the coalitions that he created in 77, that's the coalitions that Netanyahu has now.
Yeah.
That was coalitions that was established by Begin. I'm not talking about the party, I'm talking about the
Sure.
coalition.
Yeah, that it's right, and that's the thing. After so many years of opposition, he wins, and then from 77 to now, Likud has been by some distance the most successful party ever since that time. So let's get to that. So we have the famous Ma'apach, and of course, the man who coined that phrase, Chaim Yavin, died just last week. So for those that don't know, the legendary Israeli news anchor Chaim Yavin, who coined the phrase Ma'apach to mean the upheaval, the turning around of Israeli politics when Menachem Begin won in 77, died just under a week ago, right?
Yeah, and when he announced it, you saw that he was very pale and
he was part of the establishment.
Very disturbed.
Right.
One of the first interview of Menachem Begin as prime minister, he saw that his face, that Chaim Yavin's face are so serious. He said, "Lama naflu panecha? Why are you so sad, Mr. Yavin?"
Yeah, because of course Begin was the outsider, and you had an establishment that had been built up not just since 48, even before, because of course the labor movement had been dominant
from 31.
So it was a very
1931,
a long period of establishment building of this labor establishment, and
it was a socialist establishment, which usually is not plural.
Right, so they know how to centralize power.
Yeah.
Right, indeed. So Begin comes in, and of course, many people here and listening will know about many of the sort of very famous achievements in his relatively short time, 6 years, peace with Egypt, and war with the PLO in Lebanon, and the attack on the Iraqi nuclear reactor, as we mentioned. But there were also things that I think certainly people outside Israel know less about, which is the massive social change that he implemented.
The first one, maybe it's more economic than social, was to liberalize the economical system in Israel. It was centralized. Until then, for example, Israelis weren't allowed to have a bank account in dollars, or they couldn't get dollars when they went abroad. They had the quota amount of $200 or something like that you had to go to the post office to have the special registration, and you got your $200 for each person who went, and he changed the economy, his government. And then the social structure of Israel changed. One of the first things that he did was to announce Project Renewal, which still is the biggest social project in Israel history. He based this project on first the assumption that education is the key to better ability to earn money. And we know that from social science that there is a direct connection between years in education to earning ability. But he said also that there is a connection between square meter or square foot, if you want, per person in his house to his ability to succeed in school. And again, it makes sense. If you are 10 children and there is only one bedroom, there is no place to do your homework, to study, there is probably no library in the house. But if you have 3 bedrooms, 2 children in each one, you will have your desk, you will be able to do your homework. So he established a project that was mainly improving housing in all the neighborhood, the suffering neighborhood in Israel, but he changed other things in that project. Until then, let's say that there was a decision to do something in Sderot. So the bureaucrat in Jerusalem, in the housing department, would decide that we will have a dental clinic because that's what they need. He said, no, the people in Sderot, they know better what they need. So they are going to chair the steering committee of the project renewal. Of course, there will be their representative of the housing department and the social department and the municipality, but a member of the neighborhood will chair the committee. And the other things that he changed was the connection between diaspora community to Israel. Until then, a nice Jew in Boston, was giving $10 to the UGA in Boston. 5 remain in Boston, 5 went to New York to the central office. From that 5, they remain. I won't go to all the mess, but let's say 2 would go to Israel, 3 for the rest of the world. The 2 to Israel would come to the Jewish agency not far from here in Jerusalem, and they will send 10 cents to Sderot. The guys in Sderot don't know where the money came. The guy in Boston don't know where his money went. So he said, no, Boston will create a connection with, I think Boston was Haifa, okay. Montreal was Beersheba, right? Dr. Moss is here. Beersheba, I think. And they will be part of the steering committee.
Right.
And not only that they will give money, he was talking about P2P, people-to-people connection. And let's say again, use the example of dentist. There are dentists in Ashkelon, in Montreal, so they would come in the summer to Beersheba and will treat children. And a group of women from Beersheba will go to Montreal to have, God forbid, women empowerment. So the connection will be not only through the dollar that they give, but through the connections that they create.
Yeah. Yeah, it's an amazing idea.
Of course, there were criticism about the project. It's not went smooth and there were issues, but he dealt with ideas.
Yeah. And
again, with regarding to the social structure, until then, it was a very small group that was creating the central part of the politics in Israel. He opened it to people from Arab origin countries. And people like David Levy, Moshe Katsav, David Magen, I don't know if you know the names. They became part of the national leadership.
Right.
Because he opened it.
Right. Right. There was an Ashkenazi domination essentially until that point.
Ashkenazi Chiloni.
Right. Secular.
Secular center. Elite.
Yeah.
And he opened Israel society all the walks of life.
Let's talk a little bit about we just referred to the secular thing. Begin was the first Israeli prime minister who had a kind of reverence for Jewish tradition, who wasn't avowedly secular, like the left had been certainly up to that point. And he brought with him this, he rejected the idea, Ben-Gurion's famous mitanach lepalmach, right? This idea that from the time of the Tanakh until the time of the Palmach, until the state of Israel, there was nothing, right? The centuries of Jewish life in Europe, effectively nothing of worth happened there. And Begin rejected that and came with a very different view.
He rejected that in two ways. One, he accepted, and he was part of it, and he grew up in that environment. That's the tradition of the Jewish people, and most of our culture was created in the diaspora, in the galut.
Right.
And the literature, everything.
Right.
And we can't ignore it because there was a famous story play in Israel in that time to talk about from the Tanakh to Palmach, said that we were born from the sea. And he said, no, we are a link in the chain of the Jewish people.
Yeah.
From all generations. And the other thing he said, he didn't reject the people who stayed in the Gola. He was a very radical Zionist. He preached for Aliyah.
Right.
But Ben-Gurion and all the people who came after him from the labor movement said, okay, those who decided to stay in the galut, it's their problem. We should ignore them. Of course, we should get money because we needed the money.
Yeah.
And we should have their political support when we need it. But basically, they decided not to join the Zionist revolution. Begin saw himself as part of the Jewish people in the entire sense of it.
Yeah, right. And Jews in the diaspora felt that. I think when they met with Begin and they had this experience of meeting for the first time with an Israeli prime minister who actually spoke like a Jew rather than like a.
First, that he reminded them with his English, their Bobe English, because of his Polish accent.
Yeah.
I'll tell you a story. When we started to fundraise for the building, we went to one of the director of one of the biggest foundation, and he asked how much you need. We said $3 million to finish. He said, okay, I'll give you $1 million if you will be able to raise the other two. 1 to 2. You will raise $200. Come and tell me, and I'll give you 100. And we are very happy. So he saw that. He said, "It's not you, people. It's Menachem Begin." What's the story? He said he was a young Jew in America, lived in New York, and in '77. He opened the TV on Sunday and saw Meet the Press with Menachem Begin. It was Tisha B'Av that day. And Anchorman asked him, Mr. Prime Minister, how you sum up your visit here? And he said, I'll come to that in a minute, but let me say first that today it's Tisha B'Av. It's the day that our people mourn the first temple, the second temple, gave a whole speech about that. And the guy said, I started to cry because it was the first time that I saw on national TV a leader talking about the Jewish, just something Jewish.
Right.
And then I decided to make Aliyah.
Wow.
So that's why we got $1 million.
Very nice. Amazing.
Not that we were a great fundraiser.
Yeah. I'm going to come shortly to questions from the audience. I have some questions ready. There's a huge amount, obviously, that we're not covering. So ask whatever you want. But I will just ask Begin as prime minister, because obviously the series is about the prime ministers, and it's called The Buck Stops Here because I actually had Begin in mind because the buck stops here, the famous American phrase, Truman, the idea that the guy at the top has the ultimate responsibility. And Begin I thought of Begin because he, for me, exemplifies the leader who For him, he's the guy, he has to take responsibility. It's no one else's responsibility but his. And that seemed to be throughout his career that was, he saw leadership as taking responsibility. And it's an amazing thing throughout from the Irgun to right up until, and as Prime Minister, can you say something maybe about his leadership style, how he managed his cabinet, how he worked with ministers, obviously, like every Israeli government, a coalition of different parties, maybe, Israeli politics can be kind of contentious.
About the issue of responsibility, in 1976, before he became prime minister, we had the Entebbe operation.
We talked about it last time because we discussed Rabin. Yeah.
And in the discussion after the operation took place, Begin gave a speech at the Knesset. By the way, in that event, Rabin, of course, informed him first that we don't have a military option, and we probably are going for the first time to deal with
to negotiate with the terrorists.
And Begin told him, we will support you. And then he told him, no, we found a solution or an option. Begin said, we are going to support you as well. But after that, in the Knesset, when he gave a speech, a whole speech, but he said, I have one sentence to the prime minister. He said, Kol hakavod, but I want to say something else. In such a decision of the government, but the prime minister has another gram of responsibility. But this gram makes all the difference. And kol hakavod to you, prime minister. Rabin remembered that to his last day and respected Begin.
Wow.
Also because there was a fight between Peres and Rabin about the credit.
Yeah.
But he gave it to the prime minister. He was a Democrat, a real Democrat. And he once described the form of the government system here, that what's the connection or what's the relation between the ministers and the prime minister. And in Israel, we say, Rishon ben Shavim, the first between equal. And Begin said, what does it mean, first among equal? That I, the prime minister, treat them as equals. They treat the prime minister as the first. And he tried to first, every decision he took to the cabinet. Later on, it developed more and more decisions the prime minister takes on himself.
Right, or you have like a little or a smaller security cabinet, that kind of thing.
Right. But he believed that the government, the whole cabinet should participate. Especially, exceptions of something very secret that you have to keep. Even the issue of the bombing the nuclear reactor in Iraq, it was discussed for more than a year in the cabinet. Nothing came out.
Wow.
The timing was will be decided by the prime minister, the Ministry of Defense, and the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. And in that process, he tried to create consensus, not only majority, because he said it's a major issue. So there were two members of the government. One was Yadin, previous chief of staff, head of the Democratic Party, and the other one, Yosef Bur, who was the head of the Mafdal,
the Religious
Zionist Party, and they had reservation. And he sent to them the chief of staff to discuss it. And until he got a consensus, there was no decision.
Wow.
And again, he he felt that we have to do it. But he brought to the cabinet the director of the Mossad, who was against it, and his deputy, who was for it, and the chief of the intelligence in the army, who was against the action, and his deputy, which was for it.
Wow.
He brought all the views and all the aspects of the decision to make sure that everybody knows what they are voting for.
Wow. So that all the views were heard.
Yeah.
Amazing. Okay, so I want to ask my colleague to bring the microphone. Just Sarah. Oh, okay. I'll wait until. So what we'll do is, people can shout with a loud voice, and maybe I'll repeat the question so that it's heard by. Oh, Sarah, you're here. Great. So Sarah's going to come by with a microphone.
It should be short.
Yeah, let's keep questions short and to the point, and definitely a question. Jeff had his hand up first, very quickly. No, just down here with the blue shirt.
Herzl, thank you so much for sharing with us. So I'm at Menachem Begin's kever at least twice a week, and I'm always struck by the sheer humility of the kever, of his kever, and also Eliza's. There's virtually nothing written on it, but I think the story of Eliza gets short shrift. Could you talk a little bit about her and her relationship with the Prime Minister?
Because she was so, away from the lights, there is nothing was written. When she was the wife of the Prime Minister, actually the first lady of the State of Israel, nobody would be able to recognize her in the street. She used the buses. The military secretary told me once, his military secretary told me that there was a ceremony that she was there, and the ceremony was finished, and he saw Mrs. Begin starting to walk. So he stopped with his car next to her, and he said, Mrs. Begin, can I give you a ride? She said, no, thank you. There is a bus here, and And another story that I heard about that they went to the States for one of the state visit, and it was they decided to stay another 3 or 4 days. So she needed something from the pharmacy. So the administrative guy from the embassy said, "Give me the list, and I'll go and fetch it." And she said, "You know what? If you already go, please, we don't have enough clean shirts. So buy 2 shirts for the Prime Minister." She gave him the measurements. And he come back and she said, "Where's the bill?" And he showed her the bill from the pharmacy, and she paid, and then he put the shirt, and she said, "Where's the bill for the shirts?" He said, No, that's on the embassy. So she said, "Well, the embassy is not going to wear the shirts. Menachem Begin is going to wear the shirts, and we are going to pay for it."
Wow.
She was a woman of chesed. She developed organization to deal with the women of asirim, inmate, prisoners, in prison, people in prison, to take care of the women, to take care of the children while the husband is in jail, and the handicaps. You know, they got the Nobel Prize, which was then $125,000, because it was half Menachem Begin got and half Sadat got. So they put the money in foundation and dedicated, they said, to a needy student and poor children. The family Begin, the Begin family didn't have an apartment. They didn't own an apartment.
But they rented before he became prime minister.
Yeah, they rented in a rent control apartment in Tel Aviv, and when he finished his position, he didn't have a place to go. They have to look in Jerusalem for to rent an apartment in Yefe Nof. So they could do something with the money. But they always felt that there are people who need more than them.
Right. They were, as a couple, they were well suited and amazing.
He, by the way, didn't understand anything about money. She used to give to the driver money every morning. She said, if you will need something, if you will need to buy, so you will have the money. He so wasn't unmaterialistic, you can say. You know, when we got his library here, the library from his home, I found a check from Stimatsky, who was the publisher of his book in English, which he forgot to deposit and use it as a
bookmark.
A bookmark.
Wow, amazing.
From 81, it was 10,000 shekels, but it was all shekels, so it was.
Wow.
That was his royalty. I looked for it. It was royalty from Stimatsky.
Well, okay. Lady down here. Just wait for the mic, please.
I really want to know about his years with the Irgun and the relationship that he had with the nascent government of the Haganah, etc., the Jewish agency during the 30s.
You know, they were hunted by the Haganah. He always said, we are ready to be under the command of the Jewish agency and the Haganah if you will decide that you are fighting the British to get independence. Until then, and you know, we have to remember, it was a voluntary organization. It's before the state. He said, we won't accept the policy of the Haganah not to do anything against the British. Appeasement? Appeasement wasn't his policy.
Right, there was this, the Haganah had this Havlaga policy.
Havlaga.
Self-restraint, which was completely rejected by Begin.
He never believed it, and if I will be allowed to jump a few years later, the reason to go to the first, what we call now the first Lebanon War, the Peace for Galilee operation, was the same idea. We are not containment, right? That's the term that we like to use in the last few years before the October 7th. He didn't believe in that. And the other hand of or the other aspect of the relations, he created the notion that no civil war, we won't fight them. Although, and you know, at that time, at the same time, there were a lot of countries that were liberated from the colonies, becoming from colonies to a state. And in each one, when there was more than one force, armed force, became a war between them. If they were able to send the British or send the French or send the Dutch away, there was a war. And he said, never civil war, or milchemet achim in Hebrew. And it was
War between brothers.
War between brothers. And it was implemented in 1944 when the Haganah decided to hunt and give the British member of the Irgun, and there were people who went to jail, went to death, and he said, "We are not fighting back," because he said no civil war. So the people in his command say, "What do you mean there is no civil war? There is civil war, but we just don't participate. It's a one-side civil war." He said, "It's better that we will suffer because on the stake is the destiny of the Jewish people."
Right. Amazing. Sarah, there's a few hands down here. Just come down this way. There's a few hands down this way. This gentleman here has his hand up a while. Just wait for a second. Right at the front. Yeah. Sorry, I'm giving you your exercise, Sarah, for the evening.
Thank God for use.
Could you tell us something about Begin's later years when he was a recluse?
When he was
A recluse.
What was that like in practice, and why do you think he took that path?
When he decided to resign, it was after his wife died, and the casualties in Lebanon were much higher than they expected, and he took responsibility. First, it killed him. It really. Again, I heard from his military secretary that he used to give him the news. And one morning, the deputy prime minister came to him and said, "Azriel, don't call the prime minister at night. You are killing him." Every soldier that fell, that he was killed, he felt that he lost a son. So that and the death of his wife made him feel that he can't do it anymore, can't take the responsibility. And when he decided that, he said, "Okay, now I'm not a servant of the public. So it doesn't matter what I think. It doesn't matter what I want to say. And if they will come and interview me, there is going to be, he said that, and so I don't want it." So only very close friends that he counts that won't tell what Begin told me, Begin said, used to come to him. A few, I think 24 people, besides the family, of course. And he got old, and he got weak. He said, in a way, "Eini yachol od." I can't do it anymore. And he said to his chief of staff, he was supposed to go to meet President of the United States, Reagan, in his time. And he feel weak. And he asked his chief of staff, "Yechiel, do you think that a person who as weak as me looks like I am?" And you always go with a tie. So there was space here. He said, a person that look like that can represent the Jewish people.
Wow.
So it's not for me anymore.
Wow.
And he wasn't, for many years, he wasn't a very healthy person. He had problem with the heart. So I believe that those are the reasons.
Okay, let's take a couple more questions. Down here, gentleman here.
This is a bit of a speculative question, but based on based on what you know of Menachem Begin, which politician today do you think you'd most admire in terms of political outlook and personality?
We are committed to talk only about the dead.
It's a joke, but a serious point. You'll notice this series on the prime ministers only includes those prime ministers who have passed. We're not getting into contemporary issues or leaving ourselves open to any personal attacks. Also, as I said, this event is actually sponsored by the prime minister's office, so we're certainly not going to get into contemporary politics.
But I can't avoid say something about your question.
I'm staying silent.
I said in the beginning that what we miss is the concept of national liberalism. Go find me one who represents it, one who committed to that. That's the continuation of Menachem Begin.
Very good. Okay. Across here, wait for the mic, please.
My question is, did Menachem Begin have any opinion in regard to Haredim serving in the army?
Haredim serving in the army. Did he? What was his opinion?
I think that this question has to do with context. During his period, there were a few hundreds yeshiva buchers who were exempted from the army. And he said, we are not going to count. I think that in that point, he made a mistake because he didn't realize where we are going to expand it. But his view, he never dealt with it. Just when he became power, he said, we are not going to put a quota. But it was when, Ben-Gurion gave 400, and it was about that number until the 80s.
Right.
So I think there is no doubt. Again, he's coming from Jabotinsky school. Jabotinsky considered himself the one who introduced to Zionism the necessity of military, the necessity of fighting, that we won't be able to achieve anything. That was his claim to the Zionist movement in his time. We were before the First World War. We won't be able to achieve anything if we won't have force, because that's, you like it, you don't like it. That's the name of the game, and Begin was very committed to that. So I don't think that he bought into the concept of the Haredim that just studying a Torah will defend us. But he didn't put a quota, and it's something that today, unfortunately, we have to deal with.
I guess he didn't have to deal with the clash between his reverence for tradition and this issue of fighting, because at the time it wasn't an issue.
Right.
Because the numbers weren't what they became.
Exactly.
Yeah. Okay. Yes, sir, up here. I think we'll make this the last question. So make it a good one. No pressure.
So thank you, first of all, for your views and for your reminiscences. It's been great.
Hold it a bit closer.
You spoke about the relationship of Menachem Begin and the British before the formation of the state. When he was Prime Minister, he did visit the UK when Margaret Thatcher was the Prime Minister, I think in 1977. Would you comment on how he approached that visit in terms of his relationship with the British? I know there was a clash with Lord Carrington, but maybe you would give us your view on how that was handled.
When he became a prime minister, Callahan was the prime minister. And he developed very close relation with him. And at the time, there wasn't direct flight, so he used to land in London and always on the way to the States. So before every meeting and after every meeting with Carter or Callahan.
Yeah, you said Carter, then you said Carter.
No, before every meeting,
sorry.
going to the
I
States.
see.
Before every meeting with Carter, he used to meet Callahan and brief him and discuss with him. And then became Mrs. Thatcher, which is supposed to be much close relationship because Callahan was Labour and she was conservative. But in the first meeting that they had, there was a clash with Carrington, Lord Carrington, and Thatcher was there. And he said something about Palestinian state, which always flame Begin when people started to tell him that we should establish a Palestinian state. So he said, well, we know that we can't count on you because we remember that in the Second World War, you didn't have even two airplanes to bomb the trains that went to Auschwitz. And he said it to Carrington. And Mrs. Thatcher came to defend her foreign secretary at the time. And she said, well, Mr. Prime Minister, that was a decision of Churchill. And if I would be a prime minister at that time, it would be my decision too. Begin didn't see her again.
Wow. It's maybe actually, we're going to finish, but that speaks to something we haven't really covered, which is the extent to which the Shoah, the Holocaust, impacted Begin in a way that perhaps it didn't impact any other Israeli prime minister in quite that visceral way.
I think it would be fair to say that every statement in Israel was
affected
or the Shoah is in the back of his mind. But you're right that nobody used it so strong as Menachem Begin.
Yeah, he had the personal.
And he had a personal, yeah.
Right, his parents and his brother, right. Okay, I want to thank everyone for joining us. I want to thank Herzl Makov for giving us an amazing set of insights into Israel's sixth and perhaps greatest prime minister, Menachem Begin. I hope if you haven't visited the museum we have here, then this is a perfect opportunity for me to encourage you to do so. But also do come back for our next episode in this series. As I said, Thursday, the 6th of August, Dan Meridor and Yitzhak Shamir, who took over after Begin resigned. And then 3 days later, Sunday the 9th, Michal Bar-Zohar and Shimon Peres. Please do come back. You can register online through the website or just come. We'd be delighted to see you. Thank you for coming, and thank you again to Herzl Makov.